Okay, what's up, everybody? We got some big ideas for you. Remember, two of them. We got opposites cancel to make zero, and we also have the opposite of a negative is a positive. Remember, the word opposite means negative. The word of means multiply. Negative again is means equals, and positive, well, there you go, means positive. So the opposite of a negative is a positive. Just remember, the word of means multiply, and the same is true for division. You have two negatives, would make a positive when you're dealing with division. Okay, so let's look at these problems and see how you did on this assignment. 23 times 16, there's a lot of ways to do it. All right, I'm just going to do old school 23 times 16. 6 times 3 is 18, carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12, add the 1, you get 138 for the first row. 0 for your place values, so your place values line up. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2, and then add those two together, 8, 6, 3, 368. Okay, that is one way to solve that problem. 17 times 3 is 21, carry the 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 51. And remember, the opposite of a positive is a negative. Anytime you have one negative, you have negative there when you're multiplying. Okay, next problem. 5 into 65. I could count by 5s, or I could set up long division and say, how many times does 5 go into 6? Right? 5 goes into 6 once. Then you multiply and say, how many do I have left? 1, right? And then you bring down the 5. 5 goes into 15 3 times, and it terminates. There's nothing left. So you get 13, and remember, one negative in the problem gives you a negative answer when you're dividing. Okay, next section. 6 into 30 is a basic fact. I know that can happen 5 times, and the opposite of a negative is a positive. That's 5. And 21, I'm just going to look at this and say, I'm going to count by 20s mentally. 20, 40, 60, and then 1, 2, 3. So 21 can go into 63 exactly 3 times. And since I have one negative in there, it is negative 3. All right, next section. I can go in any order I want to. Ignore the negatives. It's just 6 times 3 times 2. All right, so I'm going to go in this order just for the heck of it. What's 3 times 2? 6, and 6 times 6 is 36, right? And now I have two negatives. The opposite of a negative is a positive, so I get positive 36. All right, next one. Had to do some work for this guy, right? 42 into 1,512. So first of all, before I get too caught up in doing this problem, because it's going to take a little bit, I'm going to say I have one negative in my problem. That means that my answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to put a negative there so I don't forget. Second thing, 42s. I can't count by 42s, but what I can count by is 40s, and they're close to that, right? So I'm going to say, can 40 go into 1? No. Can 40 go into 15? No. Some people put X's up here, and that's fine. Can 40 go into 151? Yes. This is where I estimate and say how many times. 40, 80, 120. 160 would be too much, so I think it's going to be 3. So over on the side, I say, all right, what's 42 times 3? Well, that would be 126. So I'm going to use 3, 126, and see where that gets me. If I get an answer less than 42, or a difference less than 42, I know I'm in good shape. So I can't take 6 from 1, so I'm going to borrow. 11 minus 6 is 5. 4 minus 2 is 2. I got 25 left over. That's good. Now I bring down my 2. I'm going to start over again. I'm going to say 40, right? That was the number we were using. How many times can 40 go into 252? 40, 80, 120, 160, 200, 240, 5, 6. I think it's going to be 6. So on the side, 42 times 6 is 12. 24 plus 1 is 252, and it worked. So 6, 252, and that is called a terminating decimal because there's nothing left. No remainder, no decimal. It's just plain old whole number 36. And imagine if I did all that work and I forgot that negative, but I didn't since I put it over here. It is negative 36. All right, this guy. I'm going to solve this two ways so you guys can see it. First, it's 15 times 3 divided by 9. So let's do it in that order. 15 times 3 is 45, And then 45 divided by 9, how many 9s are in 45? Well, right, if I'm counting by 9s, 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, that's 5. And I have 3 negatives in the problem. That means that opposite of a negative is a positive, but I've got that negative left over, so it is -5. Another cool way to do this problem is to simplify 3/9, make that 1/3, right? And 15 divided by 3 is also 5. We're going to learn more about that in the future. All right, let's do the next section here. Let's do the negative signs first, right? Opposite of a negative is a positive. This guy, the absolute value of -10 is a positive. Make sure you clean that up first. 20 times 5 is 100, and 10 times 10 is 100. It looks like these are equal. Okay, next one. I have one negative on this side. That means my answer is going to be negative since we're dividing. And I've got two negatives on this side. And since we're dividing, the opposite of a negative is a positive. So I don't need to do any numerical work. I know my answer is just positive. So a positive is always bigger than a negative. Next section. I got a negative on this side. I have a negative on this side. Now, 54 divided by 9, that's a basic fact. That's 6. 21 divided by 3, again, another basic fact. That's 7. What's bigger, -6 or -7? And how can you tell? It is -6 because it's closer to 0, right? Closer to the positives. Okay, remember how you find averages? You add them all up, and then you divide by how many numbers there are. So I'm going to add these all up using my positives first. It looks like to me like I have 72 positives. Now negatives, I'm going to line them up. 82, 63, and 7. And I've got 10, 11, 12. And then I carry. So 8 plus 1 plus 6 is 15. It looks like to me I have 152 negatives. So I'd say, all right, I have 72 minus 152. I take what I have more of, 152, and I'm going to subtract. And I get 0, borrow 1, carry, or borrow 1, put the 1. 7 from 15 is 8, and I have -80 for my sum. So as the money, I have -80, and now I got to divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Divide that by 5. So how many times can 5 go into 80? It can go in once, subtract. And how many times can 5 go into 30? 6 times, and it terminates. So it looks like I get 16, but don't forget a negative divided by a positive is a -16. So that problem took some work. That's -16. This one's going to be a little bit easier. All right, let's look. If I'm combining these numbers, are there any numbers that cancel? Because I can get rid of them. I can get rid of, well, let's see. Do I have any that cancel? Cancel. I have a 3 and a -3. They cancel, right? So I don't have to deal with them right now. So I'm going to add up my positives. 1 plus 0, it's just 1, right? My negatives, -2, -4 plus -4 is -8, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just checking to make sure this works out all right. 1 minus 8 is -7. Now, how many numbers are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is -7 divided by 7, everybody? Well, 7 divided by 7 is 1, and then the opposite sign makes that a -1. So the average golf score is -1. And finally, the temperature dropped 4 hours, so -4 because it dropped each hour for 3 hours. So what would that look like? -4 plus -4 plus another -4. And that's with repeated addition. If I wanted to show it as a multiplication problem, I'd have -4. And how many of those things do I have? 1, 2, 3. And then we want to make it a sentence. So I throw that equal sign in there because that means is. So -4 times 3 is, and what do we get for an answer? -12. That would be the temperature. Okay? So hopefully you guys did a good on that. That was a little challenging. All right, but you're going to get better at it with the more practice you get. All right, good luck, guys, and thanks for joining us.